Thank you. What a world we can be in where being a nerd has gone from a negative to such a positive. I got extremely lucky in that whole thing. Yeah, a lot of my presentations I've done in the past have been to huge audiences of computer programmers, and when I do a PowerPoint presentation, usually there's code on there, and I'm going through it and hoping that afterwards for an hour and a half people don't rip it apart, which they do. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So I'm really excited here to talk to people that I feel like are a lot more engaged in working together, than that. With that said, I chose not to do any PowerPoint presentation. So if we had a whiteboard up here, I would have gone nuts somehow drawing out this 6 months endeavor that I did, but you'll have to kind of bear with me. I'm from Minnesota, so kind of a Lake Wobegon, if anybody kind of knows that type of approach. A little story time here, where it's at. Yeah, Marketing Architects, where I work, is a linear TV agency, but I'm not a media buyer. I'm not a data scientist. I am a tech nerd, and I solve problems for my company using technology. It's kind of what I do. Sometimes I will partner with people to find things, and luckily, I have a staff that I brought over from my other years of experiences everywhere else to build software. So we tend to build a lot of software. So when I started at Marketing Architects, we were 100% radio. And on radio, as if anybody had done that, the idea of content is very black and white. You have stations. It doesn't even matter time of day, anything. Like if you wanted a product that wanted to be represented on country, you had a country station. That's where you went. It was pretty straightforward. So at that time, they had already built a system that did really well for them. And in essence, almost too well, because a lot of their radio brands started to want to get on TV. So we branched into TV. And the realization that TV is a lot different than radio came to mind, and especially buying media. And so we tried a couple off-the-shelf systems that worked for a while, but then they kind of fell into, we wanted to get into programmatic. That's really where our original radio platform did. And so we built a TV buying platform by hand a couple years ago, specifically to get programmatic into linear TV buying, which we can get into at a separate point. But the base of it is we use Contextual mainly as our main kind of target. So all of a sudden, we're doing well, and clients are growing and growing and growing, and now they're starting to exhaust some of the linear landscape, and connected TV is out there, and our clients are saying, we need to get into that. We're like, okay, let's get into that. So we hire in some really talented people, and they come in and run a little more traditional. Our radio, and up to that point, our TV campaigns, a lot of them had a call to action at the end of it. A phone number, a QR code, texting, landing page. So our baseline measurement, while not holistic, had been well established. We knew most of our brands, how they reacted. So the good news is when we try something new, like getting into connected TV, it was easier to measure for us because we had campaigns that we knew in the other media outlets. So we try some, and it's not working. And we are good stewards to our clients, and we try to tell them that. And some of our clients are like, but it's working for everybody. This whole targeting thing is great and all that stuff. All right, give us different data, we'll try different things. And we just kept trying and trying, and it didn't work for most of our brands. And we were kind of at a standstill of what do we want to do. And then I said, well, let me dive into it. Let me see what this problem is and what we're trying to solve. And so in my office, we're at home now because of the pandemic and everything. In my office, I started setting up TVs with all my monitors. I now have TVs everywhere. And I started watching more and more connected TV to kind of get a feel for it. And I remember distinctively going through a process where I'm watching Hulu, I think it was Murders Only in the Building or something like that, and I'm taking a diary of all the commercials I'm being targeted with. And, some of them made sense to me. I'm like, okay, I get this, whatever. And then, ironically enough, I start getting ads in Spanish, 100% Spanish. I don't even know what the product was because I don't speak Spanish. Nobody in my household speaks Spanish. And I'm like, this is weird. And the only thing I could think of is with a completely different system that I had helped build, we were looking to turn it into something that could be used for one of our Spanish campaigns for one of our clients. And I had done for about a week on Google a bunch of Spanish searching for key symbols that might mess up some of the code that we had built. And I'm wondering if that targeted somewhere down my profile that I spoke Spanish, right? And I was like, I feel really, really bad if that's true. If that's what it is, because somebody's paying a premium to target me with a Spanish ad that I honestly couldn't even tell the actual product. It wasn't dubbed, it was 100% Spanish. It was like, and that happened for about 3 weeks. About 30% of my ads were Spanish. And I was like, I just start kind of questioning the idea of the targeting. I'm like, I don't know if I think that's kind of the problem is we're not seeing the uptick for the cost. And so I joined the IAB and I started learning that there's an RTB standard out there. We leveraged some of our relationships with some of our publishers of linear content to talk to them about their connected TV. And I didn't build it, my team built a system that could ingest some of these RTB standards. And I said, hey, publisher, can you just start sending me some of your inventory? I'd like to see it. And they did. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. There's not much to it. There's really 3 direct and 1 indirect data point. You have ID, so you have an IP address and you have a device. Okay, that's good. I see where targeting uses that. You have geo, lat long, city, state, zip. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I can use this. And then you have content. And the content wasn't great. It was, you had a rating and you had pretty much the kind of keywords of a genre or multiple genres that somebody had classified this as. And I thought, all right, well, this is something I can kind of work with. This is very similar to what we do in linear. We target based on geo and kind of a general idea of what the shows that we want to target mapped to our brands. So we kind of started going down that path and building that out. And it was kind of this eye-opening experience to internally that I'm like, I think we can do connected TV, but I don't think we will target. I think there's just too much risk of not getting kind of what we saw yesterday of the right target, and the cost just isn't there for our brands. We already know our clients and their demographics and what shows they're watching. Why don't we just go with that? And so we kind of started to build that kind of back in where we are ingesting connected TV and kind of using the ID for frequency capping. So it's still there, but we're really targeting the geo and the content way more. I reached out to a couple of the publishers and said, the content's kind of light. Can you send me more? They're like, sure. Nobody asked for it. I'm like, cool. What else can you send me? I can send you show. I can send you episode. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like this is even better than what we kind of get or closer to it. So we really started to kind of work on that, and it was a simple move for us to kind of combine those two worlds. And at the time, I thought, I'm kind of bucking the system a little bit, but the more and more I've talked to people, I'm getting kind of that same kind of story. Now, I'll be the first to admit there are certain brands where targeting makes a lot of sense. I was talking to somebody the other day and they talked about like a home security system. I mean, if you can target people who had just recently moved, absolutely. Like I would do that. That makes a lot of sense. But I have a brand that, they're like a health food, and it's like, I don't know, outdoors TV or outdoor sports, cooking shows. I mean, that's really where we target, and we see a better lift and return on our investment than doing anything else. And what's great about my vision, at least in this kind of combining linear and connected TV together, is if you believe in contextual targeting and can bring those two worlds together, I do think connected TV is a bunch of impressions that you just can't get on linear. And it's giving us that new inventory slots to go after it. But I've already started to see a conversion of those two worlds. You know, I can go on linear and go through my cable box and see the game show network, and that's one of the connected TV spots on Philo that I watch to see my ads come to myself is the game show network. And I'm like, it's the same content. You know, those worlds I think are coming together. So I think that's kind of the interesting thing for me is that has that always been there? Is that a new thing? I don't know, because I kind of just jumped into this and dove in, but that was kind of the specific learnings from kind of doing the deep dive and building that out. So contextual might be coming back, Steve, you know, or linear and connected and some of the other things are just conversion. You know, I think that's kind of the question that's still out there. That's it.
Are these now you say one of the strengths is you sort of you think you have a firm sense of who your audience is already. Are these buys helping to inform and expand your understanding of the audience? Are you getting feedback from these newer buys, from the contextual response through the contextual that's helping you widen the audience and maybe find new contexts?
Yeah, no, that is a good question. I mean, one of the things that's nice about having kind of owned the software is we do measure the results instantly, and so we know within minutes if a campaign feels like it's getting a higher response. We will, in essence, we have a scaling system that puts a higher emphasis on those channels for that, and we kind of ride the wave programmatically real time. So, yeah, I think we will see a show that might not have been high on the index to go after from a contextual standpoint, but it starts to show some results. And so we tend to prioritize that and buy to it more and more. So it is a little more measurement on I think somebody else said it. I live by it. There is no attribution model that works. They all don't. You have to put them all together to kind of get a picture. The call to actions help us just get that real-time data a little faster. But I would say we definitely see certain areas that kind of we didn't expect to see as results come in, and then we adapt to buy more. Yeah.
So are you discovering that I'm trying to better understand the ways in which you're establishing the media affinities between your audience as you know them and what they're watching?
Yeah, I think we measure the results daily and adjust, the system kind of adjusts for us. We also do a fair amount of data collection of survey data, Nielsen data, all that data comes in, and we are constantly doing brand awareness campaigns to reach out, and part of that we ask kind of what shows do you watch, you know, and try to collect that type of information as much as we can. The good news for us is we were already doing that on the linear side, so bringing it over to the connected side it's the same thing for us.
Aaron, I think Aaron's going to lead a roundtable on attribution at the end of this, so I'm going to leave it to the roundtable for you to engage with him with further questions. But Aaron, thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Sure.